Hello, movie nerds, and welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, a podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to talk about Lisa Frankenstein. This was not on my list of things to talk about as far as doing an episode of it. I was going to do an episode on God, anything else, but I went and saw this today just to kind of have some fun. I wasn't sure if this, I knew that this one wasn't going to be like a big movie, like a blockbuster hit, but from the reviews that I was seeing, it kind of seemed like it was a mixed bag between people giving it like 5-star reviews and then people giving it 1-star reviews and talking about how terrible it was. But it seemed pretty even and leaned more in the direction of positivity. So I was like, okay, I'm not expecting to talk about it, but I'll go see it, right? Like, I enjoy going to see movies that don't necessarily have to be for content. I watch stuff all the time that I don't make podcast episodes about. And then I sat through Lisa Frankenstein and I felt like it was my duty to talk about it so that no one wastes even a single dollar on this film. Oh my gosh. I would have to say that Lisa Frankenstein is possibly the worst movie that I have seen in a number of years. And that is saying a lot because there are a lot of films and TV shows and stuff that have come out that have not necessarily been wins in my eyes, but this one has to be the worst one. So for anyone who's not familiar with this one, Lisa Frankenstein is basically the story of a teenage girl. This takes place in the 80s, and she is sort of, I wouldn't say obsessed because how it plays out in the movie, I don't necessarily think is that way, but she's a little bit weird, and she has this fascination with a tombstone of a dead man that then, for reasons, he comes kind of back to life as sort of, I want to say it's supposed to be Frankenstein's monster, but genuinely he's a zombie. He's like a ghoul person. And then the movie that sort of takes place is them finding him missing parts to kind of make him a whole person. I don't know if the intention, even after watching the film, I don't know if the intention was to bring him like back to life or if he just needed extra parts to like look more alive. It was very sort of confusing in the film, and it wasn't explained in any way, shape, or form. And then kind of like what happens with them through, you know, bringing him back to life and getting him more parts. Now, from the trailer, I expected this to be a lot more, I don't know, like horror-esque, you know, like I expected this is going to sound really bad, but I expected there to be a lot more killing in Lisa Frankenstein than there actually was, especially because I saw quite a few 1-star reviews of this film saying that this should have been rated R, that it is inappropriate for teenagers, that people walked out of this movie. And so when I went to go see it, I was really expecting a lot more gore. And that would not be why people were giving it 1-star reviews. So to not spoil too much, I might spoil some things because my intention is to make sure that you guys do not go see this film. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, if you still plan to go see this movie, despite me saying that you should not waste your money, there might be a couple of spoilers in this one. But as far as this movie goes, really the content that I feel like most people wanted this movie to be rated R for has a lot more to do with like inappropriate sexual nature stuff that goes on here as opposed to the gore, because I think there's only maybe 3 murders, 3 killings in this movie, despite it sort of looking like a movie. I really, before I went to go see it, kind of thought he was going to be a little bit like a zombie where he would like have to maybe eat people in order to regenerate himself, and that she's like helping him. But that's not the case at all. When he comes back to life, he is just missing certain parts of his body. Like he's missing an ear, he's missing a hand. And so she has to help him sort of kill people in order to get these pieces back. And and then she is sewing them back on. So essentially he is the Frankenstein's monster, I guess. And his last name is Frankenstein. So where Lisa Frankenstein comes in is that she does this like etching on his tombstone where she takes his last name and does the etching of his last name. And then she writes Lisa in like lipstick or something. And so she becomes Lisa Frankenstein. But this whole movie is just like the most convoluted thing ever. Like you think from the trailer that this is supposed to be some sort of weird, funny love story, but then the movie itself is not that at all. Like she basically treats him like a platonic friend, but then there are a couple of very inappropriate things that happen between them when she still is treating him like a platonic friend. Like it's very, very odd. And this movie, I will say, like it was not in any way, shape, or form like a sold out. I went in the middle of the afternoon to see this, but it wasn't like sold out. There weren't a ton of people. But by the time that I got up to leave, I had not even noticed that everyone else in the theater with me had walked out of this film before it was over, if that gives you an example of like how terrible it is. I think that the story didn't really make very much sense in the larger scheme of things. I did not find it funny at all. Like there were one or two comments or, lines in the film where you kind of do that like exhaling of breath laughter, but there's no real laughing happening. There were a couple of moments that were like that, but the rest of this film, I would say, was not funny. And how inappropriate, and not even really inappropriate in the way that like some sort of toilet humor, let's say, comedy does. Like this is just sort of like she talks about her period pad. There is a sequence where he's like picking up and playing with like her douche bottle. Like it's like that kind of stuff where it's mostly just gross. It's not actually funny. And I struggled to kind of sit through it and go, well, maybe like teenagers and stuff would think it was funny, but I don't even know if when I was that age, if I was like 16, that I would think talking about that was funny. Like I was definitely more introverted, so I feel like it just would have been uncomfortable, and as an adult it just was uncomfortable. So I can't imagine like taking your teenager to this film and sitting through some of the things that they just blatantly talk about like it's absolutely nothing. Like I don't know. It was uncomfortable. That's what the movie was. It was just uncomfortable, and the story was bad. The acting itself, I guess, was fine. I wouldn't say that was particularly bad. If you can say like a really terrible movie, but the actors are okay, this would be that. But genuine question that I had the entire way through this film was I started to kind of wonder if you were an actress or an actor and you received this script, I was like, where do you have to be in your career to read this script and go, you know what? Excellent idea. Like this is going to be my comeback. I genuinely don't understand, because I think that like Catherine Newton, does she not have a career? I'm confused because, she's noticeable to me. I wouldn't necessarily think that she would have to sign up for a film like this. And certainly like Cole Sprouse, I think deserves way better. Like he doesn't talk at all either because he's kind of like a zombie or whatever. So he has maybe 2 lines and they happen at the very, very end, like right before the movie is done. That's all he says in the entire thing. Like he just is grunting and stuff the whole remainder of the time. It's just so disappointing. Like I was really expecting this to kind of be a little bit more like, I don't know, something that like maybe Mel Brooks would have done, but like with sort of an 80s vibe. So sort of like this funny Mel Brooks style film, but mixed with maybe Stranger Things because you have that like nostalgia factor in there. That was not it at all. Like this was just a complete miss for me. I genuinely would fire my agent if I was an actress and this was what they were sending to me. I would fire them immediately and I would find new representation. Terrible. This movie is terrible. I genuinely do not understand how people are going to see this film and thinking that it's hilarious and giving it 5 stars. There's no way. I would give this 1 star, but for my personal belief, like, I wish that I had not spent the money going to see it, and I wish that I could give it like less than 1 star, because I think that's what it deserves. I don't think it even deserves the 1 star. I don't think it was like a horror comedy. There was very little horror that happens. Like, it's PG-13, so you don't really see any of the actual like gory, gruesome stuff. It really just is like one of those things where when they go to stab someone or something, like, it's away from the screen. Like, you don't see it. You see a little bit of blood, but nothing else. And really the only parts that I feel like would be, you know, rated R or PG-13 or whatever, is just like the disgusting things that they talk about. So very disappointed in Lisa Frankenstein. More disappointed than I was expecting to be, honestly. Like, I knew it was kind of a mixed bag. I was sort of expecting it would be kind of a 3-star film. I was not expecting to hate it so much. It is not surprising to me at all that people are walking out of this film. Like, genuinely really disappointed with everyone that it was involved in this one. And that says a lot coming from me, because usually I can just dislike something and be okay with it. This one, I think, was just a waste of however much money they spent on it, like, that could have been put towards something better. So those are my thoughts on Lisa Frankenstein. I would love to know what you guys think of this one if you have seen it. Subscribe if you want to join the Movie Nerd family, and I hope to see you in the next episode.